It's been quite a week for Gonzaga men's basketball, and they haven't even played a game yet. The Zags moved up to number 6 in the latest AP rankings and had a surprise addition to the roster in South Korean forward Jun Seok Yeo. Today, I'm joined by Locked On Sports, Locked On Zags podcast host Andy Patton. Andy, I want to start things off by getting your thoughts on this week's news of Yeo, a guy that's played against some big names such as former Zag Chet Holmgren and put up some nice numbers in international play. Kind of a random thing to happen in the middle of the season, though. Now, we know he won't be playing until next season. Just what are your thoughts on this addition?
Yeah, it was very surprising. Outside of Mark Few, I'm not sure that anybody knew that this edition was going to happen here right in the middle of the season. But like you said, really good numbers in the FIBA tournament. Put up similar production to what Julian Strother did when he played in the FIBA tournament. Similar production to what Rui Hachimura put up when he was in the FIBA tournament. 6'8" forward, can do a little bit of everything. I think getting him in early before he even sets foot on the court in the game situation is fantastic. Gets him the opportunity to play against guys in practice, learn the offense. You know, we saw Hachimura take close to 2 years to really kind of get fully acclimated. This gives him a bit of an opportunity to kind of get a head start on that and perhaps be more prepared to contribute to this team starting as in his sophomore year in the fall.
Yeah, some nice names to be mentioned with right there, Andy. Being a Zag fan hasn't been for the faint of heart this season. A ton of nail-biters in conference play thus far, yet the Zags have continued to rise in the rankings. A bit of a two-part question I have for you here. First, is it worrisome to see the Zags not dominating in conference play? And are you surprised to see the rise in rankings? Yes, there have been 11 straight wins, but these are games Gonzaga is almost expected to dominate, right?
Yeah, you know, I think Gonzaga has played 2 WCC games where I really expected them to dominate. That was against Pepperdine and against Portland, and they dominated both of those games. The other 3 games were a lot closer than we're used to seeing. The San Francisco game, Santa Clara game, BYU game, basically all coming down to the final seconds. But those are good teams. They're better teams than they've been historically. And I think for Gonzaga, yeah, you'd like to see them win a bit more comfortably. We'd like to not have as many heart issues for the Gonzaga faithful out there watching these games. But I think ultimately these kind of challenges are helping to more prepare this team for March. They're going to be more used to intense road environments. They're going to be more used to being down and having to kind of crawl back into games, stuff that they don't experience all that often. So I think it's actually a good thing for Gonzaga going forward. And as for the rankings, a lot of teams ahead of them have just not been doing all that well, have been losing. And so I think that's kind of created a situation where Gonzaga is moving up by virtue of just continuing to get victories, continuing to win. Will that lead to them, you know, being a number 1 seed in March? Hard to say, but ultimately this team has continued to win when they need to win, and that's what matters.
That's all that matters. And with that rise to number 6 in the rankings, it's starting to look more viable that Gonzaga could wind up getting a number 1 seed in the big dance here. Do you think that's a real possibility?
Yeah, they can't lose. No more losses on the calendar for them. If they even lose one more game, I think they're probably out. They got St. Mary's at least twice, probably a 3rd time in the WCC tournament. It's really difficult to beat Randy Bennett 3 times in a year. This is perhaps one of, if not the very best St. Mary's team that Randy Bennett has ever had. So for Gonzaga, that's the path. You got to win all 3 of those games. Even if you do, you probably got to hope Purdue or UCLA or Alabama. Those teams probably have to lose 1 or 2 more games in their conference play in order for Gonzaga to realistically be on that one line. But there is a path to do it. It's not an easy path. It's not a simple path, but it does exist. And considering how the season started, I'm not sure a lot of people thought we'd even have that conversation here in mid-January.
And Gonzaga's next game is Thursday night. The Bulldogs hosting Loyola Marymount at 6 p.m. Andy, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks, Travis. Appreciate it.
Andy Patton, you can catch his Locked On Zags podcast on Google, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and don't forget KREM 2+.